Yeah. Time flies, close your eyes. Imagine you could see everybody else's dream, what a comfort it would be. All along, standing strong, the way it ought to be. But you can never walk alone on your way to being free. We're only human after all.
Hey everybody, Captain Dave Schneider, It's a Guide's Life. I'm here in the kitchen. This for all you fishing fans, I apologize. This is a special request from a bunch of kids at school. So I'm gonna do a no-bake cookie for everybody. Apparently in this southern part of the US here, these kids have never seen these things before, but they're really good cookies. So I've got a very simple recipe that's been in my family and everybody else's family for years and years and years. But anyway, I'm going to do this thing up. I've already shown you, as you can see here, I'll roll through the ingredients as I'm talking here. What I've done is I originally shot all of the ingredients with the proper amounts for a single batch, but I'm actually making a double batch. So I'm going to be throwing in a little bit more than what we'd normally, twice as much. So anyway, so here we go. All right, we're going to start with the butter. All right, 2 sticks of butter, 1 stick of butter for the regular recipe, 2 sticks for a double batch. So it starts out with the recipe calls for 1 stick of butter. So let's get those in the pan. We're going to immediately put the pan up. I'm going to put it on high heat because we're going to try and bring the ingredients to boil as quickly as we can. The next is a 1/2 cup of milk. And I'm only going to talk about what the recipe calls for a single batch. So a 1/2 cup of milk. The recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar. And again, you're just going to pour this stuff right in here. Just like that, 2 cups of sugar. And you're going to need a 1/2 cup of cocoa. You could go to a 1/3 cup if you don't want it quite as chocolatey. But I like it. I like the chocolate. I like the chocolate a lot. So we're going to go with the 1/2 cup. Now that's all of the wet ingredients to start. Now we're going to start the process of just bringing this to a boil. Now the object of this, you come a little closer. Come a little closer. The object of this is to bring it all to a boil, and then how long you boil it is in direct relationship to how successful the cookie will harden. If it boils too long, the cookie turns into a rock. If it's not long enough, it just doesn't get firm. It stays a little bit runny and whatnot. So there's a knack to it. The key is you got to just keep stirring. You got to stir the ingredients and stir the ingredients and stir the ingredients. Now, what I'm going to do is once I get these completely stirred and it gets to where it starts to boil a bit, you're going to have, it's going to bubble at first, but that's not when you start your timer. It's when it bubbles, when the rolling boil, where you can't stir the bubbles out. That's when you reach over and hit your start. And I've got, you can see here, I've got my timer ready to rock and roll right there. So again, a little bit of a lake report. I guess maybe I'll throw a lake report in here while I'm doing this. Maybe hit all my audiences here. I had a guide trip yesterday and a guide trip today. Yesterday was artificial. It was an artificial trip. We had a high pressure situation yesterday. Fishing on Lake Okeechobee yesterday was brutally tough. The wind was just howling. It was high skies. It was post frontal. Bass Busters had a tournament here, and on Saturday, and 20 pounds won the event. Now that's much lower than you'd normally have. You'd expect the event, the winner of the event would be somewhere between probably 26 and 34, 33, 34 pounds in a typical tournament situation. What really is telling is the second place boat had little over 14 pounds from what I understand. So that's a huge drop off in the productivity on the lake. And talking to other guides, the lake is really fishing tough, period. It's just fishing tough. Now today I had a Schneider trip, an evening Schneider trip, and we did okay. You know, my guests boated 13 fish. We had one that was just over 4 pounds. These two guys are from Michigan, so they don't see a 4-pound bass very often in the lakes that they fish. So they were pretty excited to see that fish. But it was I would have called it a tough day. However, they were biting better today for sure than they had been previously. I'm going to go around this pan with the spatula here just to get all the sugary goodness off the sides here and into. You can still see that on this here, you can still see that there's chunks of cocoa here. We got to get all that stuff mashed in as we're bringing the temperature up. So I'll bring you guys right back here in just a minute. All right, while the pan is heating up here, I just stepped away for a moment. I just turned the burner up. So wait a moment, I wanted to show you that you want like a wax paper. In this case, it's a parchment paper, to lay your cookies out when they're done, because it's going to go. This whole thing happens pretty fast once the boil starts. So you want to have a surface to lay your cookies on, and that's what this is here for too. You want to make sure that's done ahead of time. So you have two phases. You have the wet ingredients, which again, butter, milk, sugar. Cocoa. Butter, milk, sugar, cocoa. You get those things in, get those things fired up. They're called no-bake cookies because there will be no baking. You see the grit is starting to disappear a little bit. The sugar's starting to melt. Back to the lake report. I was doing my fishing down in the South Bay area again. I do know that there are still fish up in the Uncle Joe's Cut area out on the lake itself. I was told that things were very tough up in Harney Pond this weekend, but that's just something that I was told. The water temperature was up to 72 degrees today. It had dropped all the way down to 62 3 days ago. So it's amazing how Okeechobee will warm up and then get cold and warm up, get cold. It's really amazing, quite frankly, how it does that.
Today was a lot warmer day too.
Yeah, it was. It was in the mid to high 80s today. So that was much warmer.
We had our winter.
Yeah, we had
3 days worth.
Yeah. You can start to see here that it's just starting to bubble in here. You don't need to worry about this. I've got the wrist camera. I see you. Oh, I got the wrist camera. Now you can see it's starting to boil here. Okay, I'm gonna stir like this until I can't really stir those bubbles out. It starts to get foamy like this. Yeah, it's still not quite there. Almost. Almost. And I'm going to call that boiling. So I'm going to call that boiling. I'm going to hit the start on the timer. Boop, there we go. And we're officially boiling. Now we're going to go a minute. I like to go a minute and 10 seconds, but no more than that. A minute and 10. And you can see that I'm just going to keep stirring as it boils. Just going to try and mix this as well as I can. It's going to be a nice warm 212 degrees at this point. Okay, but she's going good. We're at 25 seconds. The whole trick to the cookie, guys, the whole trick to this cookie is the boil time. If you mess up the boil time, you're either going to have ice cream toppings or something to throw at the neighbor's cats. All right, that's it. Rocks or soft. Now the ice cream topping is always a nice choice. Sometimes we do it on purpose that way and put it on ice cream. Oof, that'll keep you. There'll be a sugar crash after something like that happens. All right, guys, we're at 55 seconds, 57 seconds. We're at 1 minute. Like I said, I'm going to go a minute 10. Hopefully reaching perfection at a minute 10. And okay, that's a minute 10. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it off the heat. At this point, I'm going to shut the burner off, and there's a specific reason I do that. We're going to come over here to the dry ingredients here, and I'm going to grab the peanut butter. And immediately I'm going to start putting the peanut butter into the dish. Again, this is a half a cup of peanut butter, right, honey?
Yes.
Now you can change the peanut butter. You can go a little less peanut butter, or a little more peanut butter. You can go a little less cocoa, a little more cocoa, depending on your personal taste. I mean, some people don't like them as peanut buttery. Me, I think all of that's just wonderful. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stir the peanut butter in as quick as I can. This is where I tend to cheat a little bit here. And what I do, and this is just something that I do, I've never been, I'll slide it back over on that burner a little bit. Just keep the temperature up right now, just a little bit, while it's melting the peanut butter. It's also time now to once that peanut butter is pretty well melted, and you can see that it pretty well is, I'm gonna grab the vanilla and I'm gonna put the vanilla in. Now with the vanilla, it calls for just a teaspoon, I believe. I tend to really like vanilla, so I tend to put a little bit more in.
He doesn't measure.
I don't measure this one at all, okay? For some reason, it's just me and vanilla. We're liking it, okay? So now, again, nice smell. Get that nice peanut butter and vanilla smell. I'm gonna come back here to the heat again. These cookies are basically done. I'm about to stir in the oats. Quick oats. You don't want old-fashioned oats. You want quick oats, because you want to make sure that the oats get cooked, and that's why you need to kind of hurry this along here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my heavy spoon. I'm going to go just like this. I'm going to grab the heavy spoon just like this, and now I'm going to start putting in the oats. As I do this thing here, I'm going to do a little bit at a time. I like to just fold it in just gently like this here. I like to kind of get them all buried before I start pouring a bunch more in. You can see that the mixture is starting to get thicker already, which is good. That's a good thing. It's going to stiffen up as it dries. It stiffens up, and that's how you get the consistency. And all of that is based on the cook time. It's all based on the amount of time that you boil it. All right, I kind of got that done here. Now we're going to just get this stuff all under chocolate here and get it mixed thoroughly. Judging by the consistency I have right now, I think we're good. I think this is going to be a really nice batch of cookies. Really nice. Now I like to wait a minute before I start flopping them out on the pan. I like to just give them a second or two. I know some people in my house that are in a panic to get them out of this pan, but I don't do that, because I want, the longer it sits in this situation, the more the oats will be cooked. I don't like to jump in and bite into the cookie and find out that the oats just aren't cooked very well. That's just a thing that I don't like. This is my serving size spoon. I like a spoon like this, typically. Nice big spoon. I'm gonna bring this over here, and it's gonna be time to start throwing cookies down. Now, my wife taught me that it's good to start on one side and work your way back to it. So here we go. This is go. Just like that. One. I tend to get cookies get bigger as I go, and then smaller again, and bigger and smaller. But what do you think, Jay? You like the color?
I like the color.
Huh?
You can usually tell, like, if you get to the end and they're starting to get formed, then it's good.
And you don't have to be in a big panic hurry. You can see I'm not racing super fast here. I'm just getting them on the stuff here.
Film this whole thing?
No, you can stop.
Okay.
You know, if you calculate what you've got into the cookies, we figured there's less than $3 total for a batch of cookies. It's less than $3. And I get into our last cookie here.
It seems like more when you buy all the ingredients at one time.
Yeah, it does. It is. Yeah, when you buy all the ingredients, you know, you wind up with an investment. But if you buy all the ingredients, you might be buying maybe 10 batches of cookies. You buy all the ingredients in the standard container. You need 6 batches of cookies. The sugar is a little more. Anyway, that's it. A little bit cookie. You can see there we got 2, 4, 5, 9. That's 45. About 50 cookies in a double batch.
It's not that big a deal when I think about it now. We should never be
And that
afraid to believe in it somehow.
chocolate no-bake cookies. Captain Dave Schneider, like the video, share the video, subscribe, guys. We're building a fire. Today we're building cookies. I got some kids that are going to get some cookies tomorrow. Shout out to all y'all.